Welcome back to day 6, ethics and professional responsibility. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And so I'm back with my fresh brew, feeling good. And I just want to take a second to say congratulations, right? You've made it to day 6 this far. You're investing in yourself, right? Whether you have the motivation or not, you're here. And I want to applaud you, right? I want to give you a round of applause because it's important that we uplift each other when we're trying to be our best selves, especially in a professional setting. And I'm going to do my best to help you get there, to help you achieve your professional goals. So congratulations. We're going to go over day 6. You're going to gain some additional information on ethics and professional responsibility, and we're going to get you out of here. So objectives for day 6. Understand the PMI Code of Ethics in the Professional Conduct. Explore the 4 foundational values of ethical behavior. Examine real-world ethical dilemmas and how to address them, and to prepare for situational questions on ethics in the PMP exam. The importance of ethics in project management, right? Ethics form the backbone of trust in project management. And really, ethics forms the backbone of trust in any organization, any process, any profession, right? As a project manager, your ability to lead effectively depends on demonstrating fairness, honesty, and accountability. These are leadership traits that people look for when looking to be a follower of somebody. And so if they can't be a follower of you because you lack any of those 3, fairness, honesty, or accountability, you're going to lose your team, right? So ethical decision making isn't just about adhering to rules. It's about protecting the interests of stakeholders and the organization while maintaining integrity. And integrity is another one, right? Once you lose your integrity, it's kind of hard to get it back. It's just like a reputation. Once you lose your reputation, it's kind of hard to fix it. So the PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct, 4 foundational values that we're going to go over is responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty, right? Each with their own definition. So responsibility, own your decisions and their outcomes, right? An example of this is if a mistake occurs in the project, acknowledge it and develop corrective actions. If a mistake is acknowledged in the project by stakeholders, by sponsors, by executives, acknowledge it and accept responsibility as a project manager. That's important, right? Don't say it's your team. You're in charge of the team. You're the person that's leading, right? So it falls on you. 2, respect. Treat all individuals fairly and with dignity. Example, listening to all team members' input during a brainstorming session, right? Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be a part of the team. Everybody wants to contribute, right? Nobody wants to be a part of a team in which they feel like their opinion is unheard, right? Or their opinion doesn't matter, especially when you're supposed to have highly skilled individuals as part of your team to accomplish the task. So everybody there understands what is needed and that plays a role that's significant to the project. So listen to them. 3, fairness. Act impartially without favoritism or bias. Example is ensuring vendor selection is based on merit, not personal relationships, right? This is a great way to lose integrity, right? You guys are, if you are using a friend's company as a vendor, right, that needs to be made aware. That needs to be made aware. Stakeholders need to be made aware of that, or sponsors need to be made aware of that in order for them to make a decision on whether or not they want to allow the vendor to participate in the project. And then honesty. Be truthful in all communications and actions. Example of this is providing accurate project status reports, even if the news isn't favorable. And that's important, right? If you aren't going to be honest with your stakeholders, if you're not going to be honest with the people that are taking an investment into the project itself and are looking for your benefits realization package to be as you said it was, then you're going to see very fast that your life as a project manager is going to be hard and short, right? Because you're going to be sitting here trying to cover up things that you weren't honest about. And instead, you can say, hey, this is what I have on the table, and they can offer resources to help you out. But if you don't make something known, right, because you don't want to be honest about the situation and you think it's going to make you look bad, then you're not going to get the help and you're not going to get the resources that you could have made it aware, made the problem aware, right? Made the issue aware. So I'm about to turn it off. Next, we have a few scenarios here, right? Conflict of interest, misrepresentation, and then favoritism. I'm going to go over one. I want you guys to go over the other 2 by yourselves, but we're going to get into this and just kind of read through it and see what it says. So you are managing. This is a conflict of interest, by the way. You're managing a procurement process and a close friend is bidding for the contract. The dilemma, allowing personal relationships to influence professional decisions undermines impartiality, leading to distrust among the stakeholders and potential reputational damage. Even the perception of a bias can erode confidence in the process. The ethical approach, right? Transparency is key. Disclose your relationship with the bidder to relevant stakeholders, including your supervisor or procurement committee. Step away from the selection process entirely to ensure that the decision making is objective and based solely on merit. Why it matters. By removing yourself from the process, you demonstrate integrity and protect the organization from accusations of favoritism or unfair practices. This action reinforces trust and ensures the procurement process is both ethical and transparent. And guess what? What is your reputation now that you've done that and you've been transparent? Well, you're somebody that the sponsors or additional stakeholders that you might work with in the future think of as somebody who maintains their integrity, somebody who's reputable, right? Somebody who I can trust, somebody who goes out of their way to make sure that they're doing things correctly, that they're going through the proper processes, that they're informing stakeholders, right? And so they're going to give you a little bit more leniency when it comes to, okay, maybe he missed pushing out this information to me. It's not a big deal, right? Or they're going to overlook some things because they see that they can trust you as an individual. So go through the other two scenarios, read through them, pause the video if you have to. But make sure that you're reading through this stuff because it's very imperative that you understand these different types of ethical dilemmas that you may find yourself in. So, broader ethical decisions, right? Fairness and impartiality, transparency, accountability, respect for stakeholders, right? So, for fairness and impartiality, always base decisions on objective criteria and evidence. Avoid favoritism, bias, or actions that could be perceived as unfair. Why does this matter, right? This matters not only in the context of being fair to your team members, fair to stakeholders, whatever. It allows you to see things in a way that may help your team move forward efficiently, effectively, right? If you want to listen to a specific person's ideas just because you like them outside of work and you don't want to listen to the person that you may not like outside of work, you could be missing, right, information or methodologies or tools and techniques that could be applied to your project that could help you, one, decrease the amount of time it takes you to complete the project, or decrease the amount of cost it takes you to complete the project. And so you may be missing out on optimizing your project because you are focused on what the person that's delivering the message and not necessarily the message itself. So always maintain that impartiality and fairness because you could potentially miss out on something that could help your project significantly. 2, transparency, right? Keeping them informed about key decisions, risks, and changes. It helps you by giving the perception that you care about what they think, 1, but 2, you are always going to let them know what is going on. And so they're able to trust they're able to trust you and then you won't have them on. So they're able to trust you. And once you build that trust, you'll see that they'll give you a lot more leniency on how you move and how you how you move and how you make decisions. 3, accountability. I'm not going to go through all of these. Accountability, respect for stakeholder. Some of these are self-explanatory, right? The more that you're transparent and accountable for the actions that you take, the more that you are going to foster some type of respect between stakeholders as well as trust. And then having respect for them in itself, right? Treating them with dignity and fairness, it's going to allow them to see you as somebody who is impartial, see you as somebody who is willing to do what needs to be done in order to accomplish the goal. So decision-making framework for ethical dilemmas, right? When faced with ethical challenges, use the following. Decision-making framework for ethical dilemmas. When faced with ethical challenges, use the following steps. 1, assess the situation. Identify stakeholders, potential consequences, and PMI values involved. 2, decision-making framework for ethical dilemmas. When faced with ethical dilemmas, use the following steps. 1, assess the situation. Identify stakeholders, potential consequences, and PMI values involved. 2, evaluate options. Consider actions that align with ethical principles and legal requirements. 3, choose the ethical path. Prioritize integrity, even if it requires difficult conversations or actions. 4, communicate transparently. Explain your decision with clarity and honesty. And then 5, document and reflect. Keep records of decisions and use them as learning opportunities. So I would use this as a framework. If you haven't dealt with ethical dilemmas before, this is definitely a framework that you can use. Everybody's going to have different ways of going about problems and solving these ethical dilemmas, but just make sure that it's rooted in good. It's rooted in a sound mind and sound logic, because that's going to help ensure that you are fair, right? You're equitable, right? You're choosing the ethical path. That's important. Ethics in the PMP exam. So ethics questions in the exam often are situational. You'll see this. There'll be paragraphs that you have to read through and kind of figure out, which path to take. They require you to identify the most ethical course of action based off of PMI principles. So practice example, right? Your client insists on using low quality materials to reduce costs, knowing it violates contract specifications. What should you do? 1, agree. It's the client's decision. 2, inform the client of the risks and recommend adherence to specifications. 3, proceed quietly to avoid conflict. Or 4, consult legal counsel and escalate to project sponsor if necessary. Now, this is the thing, right? Is a lot of these questions are going to have the right answer and then the right answer, right? The really correct answer. And some of these processes and some of these answers that you're going to see on these exams are going to have it's going to be like, what should the project manager do first? And so it's based off of order of precedence. You may see something that you would do, but it's going to be out of the order. And so that's one thing that I see here, right? You would do number 4, consult legal counsel and escalate to project sponsor if necessary, after you've done number 2. And so you'll see that in the correct answer where it says 2, inform the client, or 4, escalate if unresolved. And so 2 is the first answer. That's the correct answer. That's what you would do, right? If it said select all that apply, then you would do 2 and 4. But 2 is a correct answer. Why? Because it's the first action that you should do upon receiving that information. So we're going to go with 2. Ethical challenges. If you're reading through the book, we're moving on to the next subsection. Ethical challenges in global projects, right? Managing global projects introduces additional complexities such as cultural differences, regulatory variances, and then differentiating ethical norms. So, or deferring ethical norms, differing. I'm saying it bad. Example, right? Bribery and vendor selection. So in some regions, it's customary to offer gifts during business negotiations. PMI stance, reject any actions that compromise fairness or integrity, regardless of local customs, right? And so you'll see this you'll see it in movies, right? Where I've seen it in some movies where I've seen Asian characters do deals or business deals where they've offered gifts, and they're considered bribes in America, or they're considered bribes in certain cultures. And so PMI stance is that they reject all this because they don't want to see it as bribery when different cultures see it differently. So and that's the stance that you'll see. So common ethical pitfalls to avoid: overlooking small violations. Ethical lapses, no matter how minor, set a dangerous precedent. And so if you're overlooking minor infractions, it's likely that those minor infractions will snowball into major infractions, and then now you're overlooking truly major ethical lapses. And so one of the books that I like to refer to people, if you haven't read it, is Black Hearts. Black Hearts talks about kind of the same thing, right? In the book, you overlook small violations and they ultimately lead to a large organizational violation and leads to the organization shutting down. And so make sure that you don't overlook those small violations, nipping them in the butt as soon as you see them. 2, conflicts of interest. Failing to disclose personal relationships or biases can damage trust, right? If you know that somebody who is a vendor, or somebody who's an executive that's working with this company and yada yada yada, right? And that influences your project, and you don't make that known, right? When people find that out, whether it's through conversation with the vendor, whether it's through conversation with the stakeholder, they're gonna see between the lines, and they're not gonna like that you weren't honest up front. And the lack of transparency, right? Withholding information erodes credibility and trust. If you're not somebody that they can trust, right, you're gonna be out of there very quick. And so be the person that does the ethical thing. And finally, we're into questions. End-of-day reflection says that ethical dilemmas test your integrity as a project manager. Reflect on your past decisions and consider how PMI's values guided your approach. How can you strengthen your commitment to ethical behavior and your daily practice? Tomorrow, we'll shift to focusing to mastering the initiating process group. If you still want to study, we have the processing map game QR code and the flashcards QR code down below. Make sure that you're using them every day and learning throughout. So without further ado, if you haven't already, like and subscribe this video, hit the notifications bell, and I hope to see you tomorrow where we're going to practice and get into the initiating process group. Peace.